Section 4 of Drake by Alfred Noyes. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Cynthia Moyer. Book 2, Part 2. Now down the coast of Barbary they cruised, till Christmas Eve embraced them in the heart of summer. In a bay of mellow calm they moored, and as the fragrant twilight brought the stars, the sound of song and dance arose. And down the shores in stealthy silence crept, out of the massy forest's emerald gloom, the naked dark-limbed children of the night, unseen, to gaze upon the floating glare of revelry, unheard to hear that strange new music of the gods, where o'er the soft ripple and wash of the lanthorn crimsoned tide Will Harvest's voice above the chorus rang. In Devonshire now the Christmas chime is carolling over the lea, and the sexton shovels away the snow from the old church porch, maybe. And the waifs with their lanthorns and noses aglow come round for their Christmas fee. But as in old England it's Christmas time, why so is it here at sea, my lads, why so is it here at sea. When the ship comes home from turret to poop filled full with Spanish gold, there'll be many a country dance and joke and many a tale to be told. Every old woman shall have a red cloak to fend her against the cold, and every old man shall have a big round stoup of jolly good ale and old, my lads, jolly good ale and old. But on the morrow came a prosperous wind, whereof they took advantage and shook out the flashing sails, and held their Christmas feast upon the swirling ridges of the sea, and sweeping southward with full many a rouse and shout of laughter at the fall of day, while the black prows drove, leapt, and plunged and ploughed through the broad dazzle of sunset-coloured tides, outside the cabin of the Golden Hind, where Drake and his chief captains dined in state, the skilled musicians made a great new song. Happy by the hearth sit the lasses and the lads now, roasting of their chestnuts, toasting of their toes, when the doors opened to a blithe new comer, stamping like a ploughman to shuffle off the snows. Rosy flower-like faces through the soft red firelight float as if to greet us far away at sea, sigh as they remember and turn the sigh to laughter, kiss beneath the mistletoe and wonder at their glee. With their high ho the holly, this life is most jolly. Christmas time is kissing time, away with melancholy. Ah, the Yule of England, the happy Yule of England! Yule of berried holly and the merry mistletoe, the boar's head, the brown ale, the blue snap-dragon, Yule of groaning tables and the crimson log aglow, Yule, the golden bugle to the scattered old companions, ringing as with laughter, shining as through tears. Loved of little children, O guard the holy Yuletide, guard it, men of England, for the child beyond the years. With its high ho the holly, away with melancholy. Christmas time is kissing time, this life is most jolly. Now to the Fortunate Islands of old time they came, and found no glory as of old encircling them, no red ineffable calm of sunset round crowned faces pale with bliss, like evening stars. Rugged and desolate those isles were when they neared them, though afar they beautifully smouldered in the sun, like dusky purple jewels fringed and frayed with silver foam across that ancient sea of wonder. On the largest of the seven, Drake landed Doughty with his musketeers to exercise their weapons and to seek supplies among the matted uncouth huts, which, as the ships drew round each ragged cliff, crept like remembered misery into sight. Oh, like the strange dull waking from a dream, they blotted out the rosy courts and fair imagined marble thresholds of the king, Achilles and the heroes that were gone. But Drake cared not for these things. Such a heart he had to make each utmost ancient bourne of man's imagination but a point of new departure for his golden dream. But Doughty with his men ashore, alone, among the sparse wind bitten groves of palm, kindled their fears of all they must endure on that immense adventure. Nay, sometimes he hinted of a voyage far beyond all history and fable, far beyond even that void whence only two returned: Columbus with his men in mutiny, Magellan, who could only hound his crew onward by threats of death, until they turned in horror from the threat that lay before, preferring to be hanged as mutineers rather than venture farther. Nor, indeed, did even Magellan at the last return, but with all hell around him, in the clutch of devils died upon some savage isle by poisonous black enchantment. Not in vain were Doughty's words on that volcanic shore, among the stunted dark acacia trees, whose heads, all bent one way by the trade wind, pointed north east by north, south west by west. Ambiguous sibyls that with wizened arms mysteriously declared a twofold path, homeward or onward. But aboard the ships, among the hardier seamen, old Tom Moone, with one or two stout comrades, overbore all doubts and questionings with blither tales of how they sailed to Darien and heard nightingales in November all night long, as down a coast like paradise they cruised through seas of lasting summer, Eden Isles, where birds like rainbows, butterflies like gems, and flowers like coloured fires or fairy creeks floated and flashed beneath the shadowy palms, while ever and anon a bark canoe with naked Indian maidens flower festooned put out from shadowy coves, laden with fruit, ambrosial o'er the silken shimmering sea. And once a troop of nut brown maidens came, so said Tom Moone, a twinkle in his eye, swimming to meet them through the warm blue waves and wantoned through the water like those nymphs which one green April at the Mermaid Inn should hear Kit Marlowe mightily portray among his boon companions in a song of love that swam the sparkling Hellespont, upheld by nymphs not lovelier than these, though whiter, yet not lovelier than these. For those like flowers, but these like rounded fruit, rosily ripening through the clear tides tossed from nut brown breast and arm all round the ship the thousand coloured spray. Shapely of limb they were, but as they laid their small brown hands upon the ropes we cast them, Captain Drake suddenly thundered at them and bade them pack for a troop of naughty wenches. At that tale a tempest of fierce laughter rolled around the forecastle, but one boy from London town, a pale-faced prentice, run away to sea, asking why Drake had bidden them pack so soon. Tom Moone turned to him with his deep-sea growl. "Because our captain is no pink-eyed boy nor soft-limbed Spaniard, but a staunch-souled man, full-blooded, nerved like iron, with a girl he loves at home in Devon, and a mind for ever bent upon some mighty goal, I know not what, but 'tis enough for me to know my captain knows." And then he told how sometimes o'er the gorgeous forest gloom some marble city, rich, mysterious, white, an ancient treasure house of Aztec kings or palace of forgotten Incas gleamed, and in their dim rich lofty cellars gold, beyond all wildest dreams, great bars of gold, like pillars tossed in mighty chaos, gold and precious stones, agate and emerald, diamond, sapphire, ruby and sardonyx. So said he as they waited the return of Doughty, resting in the forecastle gloom, or idly couched about the sun-swept decks on sails or coils of rope, while overhead some boy would climb the rigging and look out, arching his hand to see if Doughty came. But when he came with a strange face of feigned despair, and with a stammering tongue he vowed he could not find those poor supplies which Drake himself in other days had found upon that self-same island, but perchance this was a barren year, he said, and Drake looked at him suddenly and at the musketeers. Their eyes were strained, their faces wore a cloud. That night he said no more, but on the morn, mistrusting nothing, Drake, with subtle sense of weather wisdom, through that little fleet distributed his crews anew, and all the prisoners and the prizes at those isles they left behind them, taking what they would from out their carven cabins, glimmering silks, chiselled Toledo blades and broad doubloons. And lo, as they weighed anchor, far away behind them on the blue horizon line it seemed a city of towering masts arose, and from the crow's nest of the Golden Hind a seaman cried, "By God, the hunt is up!" And like a tide of triumph through their veins the red rejoicing blood began to race, as there they saw the avenging ships of Spain, 8 mighty galleons nosing out their trail. And Drake growled, "O my lads of Bideford, it cuts my heart to show the hounds our heels, but we must not imperil our great quest. Such fights as that must wait, as our reward when we return. Yet I will not put on one stitch of sail, so, lest they are not too slow to catch us, clear the decks. God, I would like to fight them." So the little fleet advanced, with decks all cleared, and shotted guns and men bare armed beside them, hungering to be caught. And quite distracted from their former doubts, for danger in that kind they never feared. But soon the heavy Spaniards dropped behind, and not in vain had Thomas Doughty sown the seeds of doubt, for many a brow grew black with sullen seeming care that erst was gay. But happily and in good time there came, not from behind them now, but right in front, on the first sundown of their quest renewed, just as the sea grew dark around their ships, a chance that loosed heart-gnawing doubt in deeds. For through a mighty zone of golden haze, blotting the purple of the gathering night, a galleon like a floating mountain moved to meet them, clad with sunset and with dreams. Her masts and spars, immense in jewelled mist, shimmered, her rigging like an emerald web of golden spiders tangled half the stars. Embodied sunset dragging the soft sky or dazzled ocean, through the night she drew out of the unknown lands, and round a prow that jutted like a moving promontory, over a cloven wilderness of foam, upon a lofty blazoned scroll her name, San Salvador, challenged obsequious isles, where'er she rode, who, kneeling like dark slaves before some great Sultan, must lavish forth, from golden cornucopias, east and west, red streams of rubies, cataracts of pearl. But at a signal from their admiral, all those 5 small ships lay silent in the gloom, which, just as if some god were on their side, covered them in the dark troughs of the waves, letting her pass to leeward. On she came, blazing with lights, a city of the sea, belted with crowding towers and clouds of sail, and round her bows a long drawn thunder rolled, splendid with foam. But ere she passed them by, Drake gave the word, and with one crimson flash 200 yards of black and hidden sea leaped into sight between them as the roar of 20 British cannon shattered the night. Then after her they drove, like black sea wolves, behind some royal high branched stag of 10, hanging upon those bleeding foam flecked flanks, leaping, snarling, worrying as they went in full flight down the wind, for those light ships, much speedier than their huge antagonist, keeping to windward, worked their will with her. In vain she burnt wild lights and strove to scan the darkening deep. Her musketeers in vain provoked the crackling night with random fires. In vain her broadside bellowings burst at large, as if the gates of Erebus unrolled. For ever and anon the deep sea gloom, from some new quarter, like a dragon's mouth, opened and belched forth crimson flames and tore her sides as if with iron claws unseen, till all at once rough voices close at hand out of the darkness thundered, "Grapple her!" And falling on their knees the Spaniards knew the dragon of that red apocalypse. There with one awful cry, "El Draque! El Draque!" they cast their weapons from them, for the moon rose eastward, and against her rising, black, over the bloody bulwarks, Francis Drake, grasping the great hilt of his naked sword, towered for a moment to their startled eyes, through all the zenith like the king of hell. Then he leaped down upon their shining decks, and after him swarmed and towered and leapt in haste a brawny band of 60 Englishmen, gigantic as they loomed against the sky, and risen, it seemed, by miracle from the sea. So small were those 5 ships below the walls of that huge floating mountain. Royally, Drake from the swart commander's trembling hands took the surrendered sword and bade his men gather the fallen weapons on an heap, and placed a guard about them, while the moon, silvering the rolling seas for many a mile, glanced on the huddled Spaniards' rich attire, as like one picture of despair they grouped under the splintered mainmast's creaking shrouds, and the great swinging shadows of the sails mysteriously swept the gleaming decks, where many a butt of useless cannon gloomed along the accoutred bulwarks or upturned as the ship wallowed in the heaving deep, dumb mouths of empty menace to the stars. Then Drake appointed Doughty, with a guard, to sail the prize on to the next dim isle, where they might leave her, taking aught they would from out her carven cabins and rich holds. And Doughty's heart leaped in him as he thought, I have my chance at last. But Drake, who still trusted the man, made surety doubly sure, and in his wary weather wisdom sent, even as a breathing type of friendship sent, his brother Thomas Drake aboard the prize, but set his brother, his own flesh and blood, beneath the man, as if to say, I give my loyal friend dominion over me. So courteously he dealt with him, but he, seeing his chance once more slipping away, raged inwardly, and, from his own false heart imputing his own evil, he contrived a cunning charge that night, and when they came next day at noon upon the destined isle, he suddenly spat the secret venom forth with such fierce wrath in his defeated soul that he himself almost believed the charge. For when Drake stepped on the San Salvador to order all things duly about the prize, what booty they must keep and what let go, Doughty received him with a blustering voice of red mock-righteous wrath. Is this the way Englishmen play the pirate, Francis Drake? While thou wast dreaming of thy hero's crown, God save the mark, thy brother, nay, thy spy, must play the common pilferer, must convert the cargo to his uses, rob us all of what we risked our necks to win. He wears the ransom of an emperor round his throat that might enrich us all. Who saw him wear that chain of rubies ere last night? And Drake? Answer him, brother. And his brother smiled and answered, Nay, I never wore this chain before last night, but Doughty knows, indeed, for he was with me, and none else was there but Doughty, 'tis my word against his word, that close on midnight we were summoned down to an English seaman who lay dying below, unknown to any of us, a prisoner, in chains that had been captured none knew where, for all his mind was far from Darien, and wandering evermore through Devon lanes, at home, whom we released, and from his waist he took this hidden chain and gave it me, begging me that if ever I returned to Bideford in Devon, I would go, with whatsoever wealth it might produce, to his old mother, who, with wrinkled hands, in some small whitewashed cottage o'er the sea, where wallflowers bloom in April, even now is turning pages of the well-worn book, and praying for her son's return, nor knows that he lies cold upon the heaving main. But this he asked, and this in all good faith I swore to do, and even now he died, and hurrying hither from his side, I clasped his chain of rubies round my neck awhile, in full sight of the sun. I have no more to say. Then up spoke Hatton's trumpeter. But I have more to say. Last night I saw Doughty, but not in full sight of the sun, nor once, nor twice, but 3 times at the least, carrying chains of gold, clusters of gems, and whatsoever wealth he could convey into his cabin and smuggle in smallest space. Nay, Doughty stammered, mixing sneer and lie, yet bolstering up his courage with the thought that being what courtiers called a gentleman, he ranked above the rude sea discipline. Nay, they were free gifts from the Spanish crew, because I treated them with courtesy. Then bluff Will Harvest, that perchance were true, for he hath been close closeted for hours with their chief officers, drinking their health in our own war-bought wine, while down below their captured English seaman groaned his last. Then Drake, whose utter silence with a sense of infinite power and justice ruled their hearts, suddenly thundered, and the traitor blanched and quailed before him. This my flesh and blood I placed beneath thee as my dearer self. But thou, in trampling on him, shalt not say I charged thy brother. Nay, thou chargest me. Against me only hast thou stirred this strife. And now, by God, shalt thou learn once for all that I, thy captain for this voyage, hold the supreme power of judgment in my hands. Get thee aboard my flagship. When I come, I shall have more to say to thee. But thou, my brother, take this galleon in thy charge. For, as I see, she holdeth all the stores which Doughty failed to find. She shall return with us to that new world from which she came. But now let these our prisoners all embark in yonder pinnace, let them all go free. I care not to be cumbered on my way through dead Magellan's unattempted dream with chains and prisoners, in that golden world, which means much more to me than I can speak, much more than I can speak or breathe, being behind whatever name it bears, earthly paradise, island of the saints, Cathay, or Zipangu, or high Brazil, the eternal symbol of my soul's desire, a sacred country shining on the sea, that vision without which, the wise king said, a people perishes. In that place of hope, that Tirnanog, that land of lasting youth, where whosoever sails with me shall drink fountains of immortality and dwell beyond the fear of death for evermore, there shall we see the dust of battle dance everywhere in the sunbeam of God's peace. Oh, in the new Atlantis of my soul there are no captives. There the wind blows free. And, as in sleep, I have heard the marching song of mighty peoples rising in the west, wonderful cities that shall set their foot upon the throat of all old tyrannies. And on the west wind I have heard a cry, the shoreless cry of the prophetic sea, heralding through that golden wilderness the soul whose path our task is to make straight, Freedom, the last great saviour of mankind. I know not what I know. These are wild words which, as the sun draws out earth's morning mists over dim fields where careless cattle sleep, some visionary light, unknown, afar, draws from my darkling soul. Why should we drag thither this old world weight of utter gloom, or with the ballast of these heavy hearts make sail in sorrow for Pacific seas? Let us leave chains and prisoners to Spain, but set these free to make their own way home. So said he, groping blindly towards the truth, and heavy with the treason of his friend. His face was like a king's face as he spake, for sorrows that strike deep reveal the deep, and through the gateways of a ragged wound sometimes a god will drive his chariot wheels from some deep heaven within the hearts of men. Nevertheless, the immediate seamen there, knowing how great a ransom they might ask for some among their prisoners, men of wealth and high degree, scarce liked to free them thus, and only saw in Drake's conflicting moods the moment's whim. For little will he care, they muttered, when we reach those fabled shores, whether his cannon break their golden peace. Yet to his face they murmured not at all, because his eyes compelled them like a law. So there they freed the prisoners and set sail across the earth-shaking shoulders of the broad Atlantic, and the great grey slumberous waves triumphantly swelled up to meet the keels. End of Book 2.